Say what needs to be said. Your boy, Mr. Pick Six, back with another episode. All right, it's time for Mr. Joe Montana to come to the front. It's time to debate a little bit. If y'all ain't here, we got all-pro, Super Bowl winning quarterback, Mr. Joe Montana, talks about the difference between being the best ever and the greatest ever. And he said it's a difference. This is his quote right here. He said, "I'm not the best quarterback ever, and neither is Brady." Wow. What does he mean by that? And what is he saying by that? All right, let's get into it. An article came out. This is where I ran across it. Joe Montana came out with an article, and he was explaining the difference between greatness and being the best. We all played in different eras, so we see different things and might have a little biasness. And I think he has a little biasness because that was his era. And he explains that Dan Marino is the best ever. And why does he say that? Because Joe Montana has, 4 Super Bowls? He did his thing with Bill Walsh. Tom Brady, obviously, has 7 Super Bowls, one of them. Back-to-back Super Bowls. He done all those great things, right? But he says Dan Marino is the best ever. I mean, I'm a South Florida kid, so I grew up in the era with Dan Marino, and I got to hear about him and see him, and it's all about Dan Marino. He threw for a lot of yards. He had a strong arm. And yes, he had a quick release, right? But geez, that was a long time ago. It's a few quarterbacks with quick release. Before Patrick Mahomes was in the NFL, I would have thought Aaron Rodgers was the most talented quarterback ever. But now that Patrick Mahomes is in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes is without a doubt the most talented quarterback ever to touch a field or play in the NFL. Now, there might be more to come after him, but you can't say that, Joe Montana, that Dan Marino is the best ever. That is a big, bold statement. And I can probably name 3 or 4 quarterbacks that probably is better than, has better talent than Dan Marino. So this is what else Joe Montana had to say about Dan Marino. He had a quick release. I had to step into a lot of things to get enough force on the ball, Montana says. He had a perfect torque of all his upper body and strength to deliver the ball quickly at a fast release with accuracy. Okay, all right. What is that saying? Because Aaron Rodgers has a super quick release, and he can get out of the pocket, and he could throw it going to the left, throw it 60, 70 yards, and he can throw it rolling to the right, throwing it 50, 60 yards. Mahomes, all of those things, the torque, the release, the quickness, and the no-look pass, I mean, it's different types of talent than it was back then, Mr. Joe Montana. But I hear you. I understand that was your era, and Dan Marino had a quick release, and it was probably the quickest for some decades back in those days. But, let me tell y'all about Marino a little bit. Marino played 17 seasons in the NFL, all with the Dolphins, right? He played 17 seasons. He led the Dolphins to the playoffs 10 out of those 17 seasons, and he led the Dolphins to a Super Bowl, but he wasn't victorious. Why? These talented quarterbacks are winning the Super Bowl. He also says, put Dan Marino on the field today with this new talent, and he will blow the numbers out. We can all put those type of debates up in the air and throw Tom Brady and Mahomes them back then, and maybe they would have blew the numbers out back then. Who knows? So, that's all here and there. You know what I mean? But, let's not get carried away with these greats and the greatest and who's the best by, just because it's your era, you know what I mean? And things like that. But, everybody has their own opinion. I can't see that Dan Marino is more talented than Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, right? The debate is who's the greatest ever, Joe Montana or Tom Brady? But I hear you, Joe Montana.